What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Let's Talk Jets Radio. It's been about 2 months for me, so thank you to Tyson for holding the channel down over the last couple months. It's been a minute, a lot of chaos to get into. If you guys want to hop on, I posted the link. So I'm not sure how long this is going to go. To be honest with you, because I've been having some connection issues. So we might be here for 20 minutes. We might be here for 2 hours. I'm not really sure, but I'm wide awake. So if you guys want to hop on, the link is posted in the chat. Hope you guys are all doing well. So we'll say what's up to everybody first, and then we'll start getting into all this chaos. Michael, appreciate you. Steven, what's going on? Yeah, Tyson will be back on tomorrow night. I think him and Gunny are doing a show tomorrow night. So if you guys want to check that out. Snoopy in the house, what's up? Regardless of how much of a clown show our organization continues to be, the fans are legends. Well said. Fans are in it until the end, in spite of all this ridiculous thing. Like, this is supposed to be the quiet time of year, and it seems like every week or two we got something else to talk about between McCole Hardman, Deion Dawkins, the Tony Pauline article, the Athletic article, and then today you got this stuff with Ulbrich. You know, him and the Niners. Apparently there was mutual interest there, so we'll get into all that stuff. Keep saying what's up to the chat. The Jets should absolutely not sign Russell Wilson to back up Aaron Rodgers. That is a terrible idea. It didn't work out with him and Hackett in Denver. Why in the hell would it work out here? Like, that is the last distraction that we should want for the Jets at backup quarterback. You want to sign Minshew, that's fine. You know, even Ryan Tannehill, like, I'd be okay with that. But Russell Wilson, absolutely not. Bubs, what's going on? How you doing? Miss talking to you. Happy Monday. I was happy about it. Long week ahead. AJ, what's up? Here's the thing with free agency. We'll win it just like every year, off-season champs. Well, actually, this year I really wonder about whether or not the Jets can win free agency, because the biggest need is obviously the offensive line. And for all the coaches that have left, you've got like 7 different coaches that have walked out, nobody fired. But for all the coaches that have left, Keith Carter is still here. And he was mocked by his former Titans players. He gets mocked on social media by current Jets players. So I think that's going to be the one thing that possibly deters some free agents from coming here, but we'll see. This is going to be a disaster year. This team has no culture. And I guess that's where we could start, because I'll get this out of the way, just to start. Like, all the stuff from those articles, however much you want to believe or not believe in it, a lot of it rings true. And it obviously starts with Woody Johnson. It starts with him at the top, and everything trickles down from him. And just, starting with the Athletic article, all the stuff that it talked about with him still being involved in the day-to-day operations and meddling with personnel decisions. Like, all that shit was supposed to be in the past. When he started the new structure, head coach to GM, GM to owner, we thought he was kind of backing away a little bit. And then you start seeing all this stuff, even in the Tony Pauline article, how Woody Johnson's taking over exit interviews, just like all this shit. It's like he's supposed to be the guy. He's supposed to be the CEO running things, and it seems like he kind of defers to everybody else. So I don't really know what the team culture is, to be honest with you. I really don't. And even the McCole Hardman stuff, like, I don't believe a lot of what he said, but some of it certainly rings true. And the one thing that bothered me is that if you went to a player and said, go return punts, and he tells you to fuck off, you're going to reward that player by sending him to a Super Bowl champion? Like, what the hell is that? Like, I still remember, and this is a little off topic, but I remember going back to Adam Gase when he was with Miami. One of the stories that came out was when I think they were saying, like, there was some issues with some players, and he threatened everybody, like, I'll send you guys to Cleveland. And then sure enough, Jarvis Landry, like a few months later, he ends up getting traded to Cleveland. Like, you can't have a culture where players are telling you what they will do or what they won't do. And if they don't do it, you send them to the Chiefs. Like, that whole thing just pissed me off. So it's going to rain tomorrow. Excellent. Thank God baseball is back. Absolutely excited about baseball. Excited about the Rangers. They've been playing well. Knicks need to get healthy. They were playing well. Rest in peace, Chris Mortensen. Absolutely. 62 years old, I think. Very unfortunate. Sucks to hear that. How is Carter here? Beyond me. Saying the same thing, man. Like, every week it seems like somebody else is leaving. Calabrese is gone, the running back coach, wide receiver coach, Salah's personal assistant from the first day that he got here, Dodonna or whatever his name is, he left. Scarnecchia left. Like, everybody's leaving but Keith Carter, and they won't fire him. Just don't get it. Brian Costello was saying Jets going to be quiet next Monday. Day one of free agency might be quiet for the Jets. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised because Mike Evans already signed a contract. T. Higgins got tagged. Pittman's probably going to get tagged. So who are the big time free agents that you're going to go after on day one? I don't think Tyron Smith is coming to the Jets. So I almost feel like they're going to be shopping in that tier 2 category. The Jonah Williams, the Tyler Boyds, Owenu I think would be a good option. Zeitler, Dotson if you want interior O-line. But I think they got to figure out what they're doing with AVT first. It seems like they want to keep their options open in free agency and then decide what they're going to do with AVT. But he's one of your homegrown talents. I think you want to make sure that wherever he's playing, he's comfortable. So I don't know. I'd like to figure out AVT first, but we'll see. PT, what's your opinion on people saying we need to grab a day 3 quarterback to learn under Rodgers? I get the idea, but I think we should do that next year and use all of our picks for taking players to help ASAP. I think that works twofold. If you could get a day 3 quarterback that you believe in for the future, I'm not opposed to it. But as far as getting help for now, like that's where I hope Joe Douglas is going to get a little more creative this offseason and be willing to kind of use future assets to help out this year. Because I went into this in my last video. If you start looking at the cap for next year, like the dead money this year, I think is $18.5 million. Next year it goes up. And then the year after that is when you start the Aaron Rodgers dead money hits, which is like 35, 21, and then 7. So like the future of this team is pretty much already fucked if it's a disaster this year. So you might as well just push all the chips in anyway. Like this job is not going to be attractive if this season goes in the tank. So you might as well just go all in. Like get as much talent as you possibly can to help out right now. So we'll see what they do there. I still think the Jets could be really good, but they need 2 wide receivers and fixing the O-line. I would tend to agree with that, and you could say they probably need 3 offensive line starters. Still, again, not knowing where AVT is going to play, but at least 1 tackle, at least 1 guard, and then whatever AVT is not playing, you would need somebody else there. And that's why I would love to have 2 tackles, at least 2 tackles, if not more, going into the draft. That way you're not 100% locked into having to take a tackle at 10. If Fashanu or Alt, whoever your guy is, if they fall to 10 and you want to take them, absolutely. If your guy is there, go for it. But needing a tackle at 10 where teams know you need a tackle, just like last year when the Steelers moved up for Broderick Jones, I think you want to avoid situations like that. The Jets are NFL purgatory. Absolutely. Like we've been doing the same shit now for over a decade. No results. 1 winning season. They don't even make the playoffs. Just a joke. McCole Hardman was 1,000% one of these sources in the Athletic article. Definitely possible. Cole Hardman is a clown. And you also have to wonder, like, why did it take that interview for Kenny Yeboah and Sauce Gardner to call him out on social media? Like, nobody else knew what was going on about the leaked game plans and him refusing to return punts. Like, nobody else wanted to put that shit out there until after the season's over and he already won his Super Bowl. Like, come on. Calvin Ridley, definitely an option. See a lot of talk about Calvin Ridley. I wonder what kind of contract he's going to get. If you're signing him for like maybe a 2-year deal, I'd be okay with that. But, if he's going to get big money, and he might now with limited receiver options that are going to be out there, I don't know if that's an option that Joe Douglas would want to go in. And also, this receiver draft class is nuts. I would love for Joe Douglas to find some way to get back into the second round, possibly even late first round, but more likely reasonable getting into the second round, because there are probably 8 to 10 guys that are day 1 contributors that you could get in round 2, possibly even early round 3. So, Devontae Walker, I know he had a good combine. Xavier Worthy, he's probably, end of round 1 now. Jalen Polk, McMillan, like there's so many guys out there. So we'll see what happens there. But you definitely got to get 1 in free agency. Definitely 1 in free agency. 2 guards and 1 tackle. AVT playing either left or right. Wide receiver via trade or draft. Would love Devontae Adams in a trade, but I don't think that's happening, unfortunately. But yeah, I think you're probably looking at 2 guards. I think you're going to see more than 1 tackle signed in free agency, though. I also said in my last video, I could see some combination of Becton, Donovan Smith, who's a little bit older. I know he's like a holding machine, apparently. But he's a little bit older, grew up a Jet fan. I think that would make sense. And even Bakhtiari with the relationship with Rodgers. Like, I know each of those guys has their own issues as far as health, conditioning, whatever it may be, staying healthy. But if you can sign all 3 of them, and with the way that Joe Douglas structures his contracts with all the deferred years, like you could probably sign all 3 of those guys on 1 or 2 year contracts with relatively low cap hits for this year. So something to consider, I would think. The dead cap is 29 million, second in the league. Definitely not ideal. I have a feeling the Jets might trade their 2025 first round pick, and that would be very interesting. I would be all about that, to be honest with you. I really would. Like I said before, I don't think this job is going to be attractive if things blow up this year. So you might as well just go all in. Give yourself the best chance over this 2-year window with Aaron Rodgers to win something. I'd rather use that pick now, this year, for obvious needs in a draft class that's loaded with tackles and wide receivers. Every analyst that you talk to, this is the draft. If you need a tackle, this is the draft. If you need a receiver, this is the draft. So if you could trade your first round pick for next year, which if you're winning 10 games, 11 games, which should be the goal, that's going to be a pick that's in the 20s. So if you could get somebody that could help you out now, I'd be all about that. If Joe Alt is available at number 10, take him. Absolutely. You run to the podium if Joe Alt is there. I would say for him and Fashanu, regardless of what the Jets do in free agency, if either one of those two guys are there at pick 10, at least early on right now, I'm still early in my film watching process, but for at least right now, if either of those two guys are there at 10, I think that has to be the pick. Although the guy I definitely want is still Brock Bowers. I'm all in on Bowers. You have to figure out a way to solve free agency, solve the offensive line in free agency. If you do that, then you maybe have the luxury of going with Bowers at pick 10. Let's see. My friend who's a Cowboys fan told me that Tyron Smith's problem is health, and he has a bad back. I hope they don't sign him. I mean, he's definitely missed some time over the last number of years, but that's why also, first, if he would want to come here, that's probably the biggest question. But if you could get him, I wouldn't see any problem with having a guy like Bakhtiari or Donovan Smith or somebody like that to be able to back him up. But as far as pure talent, and the timeline also fits. You're talking about a 1 or 2 year window. He's probably got 1 or 2 years left. So I'd be all about that if they can make it happen. I just don't think he would choose the Jets. Would you trade up or trade back into the first round for a guy like Xavier Worthy, theoretically, if we take O-line at 10? I don't think I would trade back because I think the options at pick 10 are probably going to be too tempting, whether it's offensive line or I think Bowers is probably going to be there. I don't think Neighbors or Adunze are going to be there. But, yeah, I don't think I would trade back, but definitely trading back into the first round is something I would consider, whether it's next year's first round pick or if somehow you could package the third round pick that you have this year and like a second next year, get back into the early second round. I would do that. There are just so many wide receivers that I think you can get in that range. It would just make too much sense. And I don't think they're going to sign 2 receivers in free agency either. Ridley's going to get big money. He will be the top wide receiver on the market. Yeah, that's why part of me doesn't see Joe Douglas going after that. The O-line and wide receiver depth in this draft is nuts. Douglas has no excuses. Absolutely. What do we get for Zach Wilson? I mean, conditional 7th round pick. I think there would be teams that would be interested in picking him up. I just don't think you're going to see teams that want to give up compensation. He's also on the last year of his contract, so I don't think you're getting anything more than a conditional 7th if you get that. I think a lot of teams are probably just going to wait it out and just wait for the Jets to cut him outright. Smith has not played a full season since 2016. Definite concern there. But even with some of the rookies that are coming out, I mean, Fashanu, he pulled his hamstring, I believe, in the combine. And then Armarius Mims also. I forget what drill he got hurt in, but he had some kind of, I think, leg issue or hamstring issue. And he's only played 8 games in his entire career. So if Alt's not there, if Fashanu's not there, I know most fans love Fuaga. Seems like he's a mauler in the run game. Maybe some other things to clean up, but I don't know. You got to be sure if you're taking the 3rd or 4th best offensive tackle, you got to be sure that you're getting somebody that's a day 1 starter still. So, are there any defensive free agents you might want? Kind of like Patrick Queen at linebacker. I'm glad you said that because I thought I was the only one that was kind of thinking this way. You got Mosley that's on the last year of his contract. You can free up that $20 million and literally get almost the same player, but younger, faster, coming from the same winning environment as Baltimore. Like, that would make a lot of sense if they can make it happen, but the Jets are too nice for that. Mosley's there. He's their team leader. They're not going to cut him on the last year of his contract. But certainly if you could get Queen and swap him out with Mosley, like, that would be a no-brainer for the current and for the future of the team. I want to see the Jets and Bills in the AFC Championship. My father is a Jets fan. Pretty sure I would lose my voice. That would be a fun game. Even in Buffalo. That's probably the one game I'd go back to Buffalo for. I I would try to drag Tyson with me too. Yeah, Folu Fatukasi, he's back on the market too. Pretty sure when he was kind of in his run with the Jets, that was in the 3-4, if I remember right. And everyone was kind of saying he wasn't a fit for Salah's defense. I guess it depends on what kind of contract he's going to get. I know he got some big money with the Jaguars when he first signed with them, but I don't know what he's going to get on the open market now. But certainly they need a run stuffer. After they lost Al Woods, that run defense was terrible last year. The thing about Bowers is we hardly utilize the tight ends we have now. We don't want it to be a wasted draft pick like McDonald. We don't use the tight ends we have now because we don't have a quarterback, or at least we haven't had a quarterback. The one thing that stood out, aside from just the overall tempo of the offense, when you watched Aaron Rodgers at training camp, almost every time that it was offense versus defense, when they were going through live drills, he was always locked in on the tight ends. And that was with Uzama, that was, Conklin, Rucker. If you could add somebody like Bowers, I mean, you want a weapon opposite Garrett Wilson. And another thing I mentioned, like the final 4 teams that were in the championship games this year, all have elite tight ends. Laporta, Andrews, Kittle, Travis Kelce. Those are all the teams that made it far. So you get one of the best tight ends probably over the last 2 decades. So long time. Hope all is good. Same to you, Brian. Hope you're doing well. After Evans, the wide receivers are not exciting. That could be a good thing, though. Like I was saying, that could absolutely be a good thing. If you just focus on maybe getting your guy in the slot, like a Tyler Boyd, and then you focus on round 2, early round 3, getting your outside receiver opposite Garrett Wilson, I would be perfectly fine with that. We did get a second rounder for Darnold. Solid trade there, I guess. But, I mean, in fairness, even though that was solid value, it also led to the number 2 pick of Zach Wilson, which was an absolute disaster. So why can't we just trade Bryce Huff or some kind of Zach Wilson package deal with another player and a late pick to get a second-round pick? Well, the problem is they're not going to franchise Bryce Huff. If you listen to Joe Douglas when he met the media, it seems like they are set on letting Bryce Huff test the market. I believe the deadline's actually tomorrow. And that whole situation sucks. I'm glad you brought up Bryce Huff because when you have a homegrown kid like him, a homegrown talent that's gotten better every single year, and everybody in this chat was calling for the Jets to pay him last year. Gets better every single year, 10-sack guy this year, and you're essentially forced to let him walk because you drafted his replacement last year. So now instead of having a low-cost receiver like a Jordan Addison or a JSN or somebody like that, Zay Flowers, on a rookie contract for the next 3 years, now you're hoping to pay a receiver or draft somebody else that's going to hit, and you're hoping that Will McDonald can fill the shoes of Bryce Huff. That whole situation pisses me off. It's almost like they're doubling down on a bad decision. And it's not to say McDonald might not be a good player one day, but it feels like they're being forced into that decision because of the draft pick last year, which also apparently wasn't even all Joe Douglas. Apparently Saleh had a lot of input on that decision as well, which bothers me. But how's Tyrone? I talked to Tyrone maybe like 2 weeks ago. Hey, he's hanging in there. We'll have to get him back on the show. I think the Jets need to sign 2 guards in free agency along with 1 tackle, all starters, or at least 2 to 3 starters in free agency. I agree. That's got to be 100% the focus in free agency is figuring out this offensive line. And then also figuring out where ABT is going to play. Because if he's playing tackle, I think that makes things a little bit easier because I feel like there's more guards that are available in free agency. Plus, you could possibly get your tackle at pick 10. You can get some guards even in round 2, round 3. So I would definitely attack the guard market in free agency. What's up, Laura? How we doing? All right, a few more questions, and then if anybody wants to hop on, I see David in the chat. We'll bring him on for a little bit. I think the Jets should only have 1 rookie in the starting lineup for O-line. You don't want to have multiple offensive linemen figuring out on the fly. I agree with that. I agree with that. Even DeBrickashaw Ferguson, his rookie year, he struggled a little bit. He needed to put on some weight. It's not easy coming in as a rookie, so part of why I don't want to rely on that. This brilliant GM chose to pay JFM during the season, but refused. He could still make this right, by the way. Like, if you want to swap out Huff with JFM, I'm pretty sure they could save like $13 million by just cutting JFM outright. But problem is, I feel like they view Huff as being one-dimensional. He's a second, third down, pin your ears back pass rusher who they don't trust against the run. Whereas JFM, they know they can line him up anywhere. So I don't see them swapping those players out. I believe Will McDonald would be a star if he played 70 to 80% of the snaps. The only problem is they hardly play him in the game at all. Well, they basically treated him exactly like they treated Jermaine Johnson his rookie year. So Jermaine Johnson put on some muscle going into year 2. He had a breakout year. So you obviously hope for the same thing as McDonald. But again, just having somebody that's homegrown and talented that you're just going to let walk, that bothers me. The Bills have traded O-line Ryan Bates to the Bears for a 5th-round pick. Nice. Tyrone said he would go live on Facebook and do a show every Tuesday. Maybe once free agency starts. Maybe that's what he's waiting for. You have a volleyball game on the 14th. Good luck in your volleyball game. Hope it goes well. Absolutely, I would bring back Chuck Clark, especially coming off an injury. I'm sure he's not gonna get a ton of money. Seemed like he was going to have a big role in the defense last year, kind of that safety linebacker hybrid type. And also, if you lose Jordan Whitehead, if you don't bring back Ashton Davis, makes plenty of sense because right now your only safety would be Tony Adams. So absolutely, I would bring back Chuck Clark. Do I like Ben Cleveland? He's only 25, 26. I think he'd be a good fit for this team. Who's Ben Cleveland? I don't know. I know Ezra Cleveland. I don't think I know a Ben Cleveland. I got to study up my free agents. I wish they would have tagged Huff and traded him for O-line, wide receiver, 2nd-round pick. That really surprises me. I don't know if it's because they're just trying to do right by the player or if they're worried that they can't get compensation, but there have been plenty of examples. Like D Ford, I know he got traded. Montez Sweat got traded, got a big contract. I think there was another player or two that Seattle, Jadeveon Clowney maybe. Like I feel like there's been a number of players that have been tagged and traded where you still got like a 2nd-round pick back, and the team trading for them also had to give him a contract. So I don't know why the Jets feel like they can't do it with Huff, but very weird. Can't believe free agency starts next Monday. Finally here. Can't wait. Who are my top free agent targets? So I know this isn't sexy for a lot of people, but if you could give me 3 free agents, it would probably be Tyler Boyd. So I know I have just a physical, reliable slot receiver. And then my focus for the draft becomes the outside spot opposite Garrett. I would want somebody reliable at right tackle, so possibly Jonah Williams or Owenu, so one of those 2 guys. And then give me the best guard available. If you can get Kevin Dotson, I'd be okay with that. Hunt is out there, Connor Williams, if you want to take somebody from the Dolphins. Possibly, there's a couple centers out there if you want to have some options with Tippmann, moving him around guard and center. But yeah, I feel like it's got to be 1 tackle, 1 guard, 1 wide receiver. You couldn't tag Bryce Huff. 1 year, $21 million would be an overpay. Yes, if he accepted the tag and played on it, but he wants to go somewhere else. Like he wants an opportunity to be an every down player. He wants to get a big contract. So he wouldn't even play on that 1 year contract. Tyrone told us that in July and August. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Do you think the Jets will make it to the playoffs? Let's see what happens in free agency first. I'm still a big believer in Aaron Rodgers. I still think he's got plenty left. I think he's got a big chip on his shoulder. But let's see what they do in free agency first. Let's see how the team comes together and kind of erases some of these culture images with things that are coming out. The guard from the Ravens, yeah, that's Zeitler. I'd be all about him. He would also fit the timeline. I think he's like 33 or 34. All right. Is Gallup a free agent? I'm not sure if he's a free agent. I didn't see him on the list that I was looking at. I know he had kind of a down year for Dallas. I don't think he's a free agent. I know there's some cap casualties out there that we didn't get to. Keenan Allen, guys like that could become available. So appreciate you, Dante. Let's see what we got here. Do you think the long-term answer is to get Woody to sell the team to a good owner? He seems to interfere and not interfere at the same time. He needs to go. Dante, appreciate you. That is an excellent comment because to me, that was like the biggest takeaway from the Athletic article. This is what I was saying at the beginning of the show. Like everything trickles down from Woody Johnson. Like all of the problems with this organization, we thought he left all these decisions in the hands of Joe Douglas and Saleh, but he's still interfering. He's still involved with the exit interviews. And I'll even go back to last year. There were all the reports that Saleh never wanted to get rid of Mike LaFleur. So he ends up getting fired. They install Hackett, which was probably not Saleh's first choice or not a guy he really wanted, but they got Hackett because they knew the connection to Rodgers. There were the reports, I think it was from Matthew Berry, that Saleh and Joe Douglas both wanted Carr instead of Rodgers. They didn't want to wait on Rodgers. And so however bad I think that would have went, at least that would have been their decision. But the fact that you still have an owner, and also the story about him like pumping all this social media shit into your head coach's head, like why should you care about that stuff? The fact that he's going to his head coach and reading shit from social media, from fans, from analysts, people that are complaining about the offense, suggestions to how to make it better. Just stay the fuck away, dude. Like, you don't know football. You're not a football guy. Stay away. But yes, the long-term answer to your question would be Woody Johnson selling the team. The problem is, why would he do it? He's making tons of money every year. Even if Jet fans aren't showing up, opposing fans are still taking over that place. He's still getting his money. So why would he sell the team? Even if Jet fans aren't showing up, he's not going to sell the team. So I kind of lost hope on that, but he clearly is the biggest problem. It's hard to see things really changing until ownership changes or until his mindset changes. I thought it was changing, but we're still seeing the same stuff happening. My name is Kevin. Hope everything's been well. It's been a while since I've checked in. Javed, hope you're doing well as well. Darren, hope you're doing well. I have one question for you. What is your position on offense and defense? Are you most concerned about, and what players would you like in them roles? Well, I think clearly the problems are on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not too worried about the defense at all. You have some areas to clean up. Run defense, you got to clean up. You need a run stuffer. You still need to figure out what you're doing at safety opposite Tony Adams. But the core of your defense with Quinnen, with Mosley, with Quincy, Sauce, DJ Reed, that's all coming back. So I can't be too worried about the defense. Plus you have Ulbrich, who's well-respected, well-liked. Who knows if he actually wants to be here? That's another convo. But clearly the concern is with the offense. And I think the first thing is figuring out where AVT is going to play. Like I keep saying, I would tend to think he'd probably want to play tackle. There's more money in being a tackle. So if he's one of your two tackles, obviously I think that makes life a lot easier going into free agency. I keep saying it's a lot easier to solve your interior than it is to solve the tackle spots. So if AVT is going to be one of your tackles, then you could just focus on the interior line in free agency. Maybe still look at a tackle at pick 10. Otherwise, Bakhtiari, Becton, Donovan Smith, all guys like that I think could be on the table on short-term contracts. Yeah, Gallup is not a free agent. He could be cut. Do you think Douglas can screw a team like he did with the Adams trade? I mean, Bryce Huff is young and a great talent. Yeah, but they're not going to tag Huff, and I don't know who else they would be able to trade right now where they could get anything significant back. I mean, are you talking about trading DJ Reed on the last year of his contract? I mean, like the rest of your young talent, that's your core going forward. Jermaine Johnson, Sauce, Garrett Wilson, those guys are only getting traded if Joe Douglas is fired and the next GM comes in and he needs ammunition. That's the only way those guys are getting traded. Anybody else, like if you have talent, you need it. So is Ayuk still a possible wide receiver the Jets could grab? I know Sauce was putting some stuff out, I think early in the offseason about wanting Ayuk, but he's not a free agent, is he? Pretty sure he's not a free agent. I'm very shocked. Guys like JFM have not been restructured, taking a pay cut. John Runyon, friend of Aaron Rodgers, he could be a guy, absolutely. Another interior O-line option right there, who's a free agent. All right, let's bring on David, and then I'll get back to some comments and questions. Yo, David. Would help if your mic was turned on. You're still muted. All right. So that was our one phone call. That was awesome. Go back to the questions for a little bit. Snead got franchise tagged just so the Chiefs can trade him. It seems the Chiefs have no intention to keep him. Yes, I saw the report they were open to trading him, so we'll see what they get there. Underrated guard and free agent, Sua Opeta from the Eagles. Okay, so I'm going to keep an eye on. I like hearing more about the under the radar guys because I only know most of the big names that people are talking about. So, hello, Circa. My only contact to this channel is Ian's pod with Tyson. Yeah, we'll start getting back into the regular live stream soon. I just wanted to hop on tonight because it's been almost 2 months since I've been doing one of these live streams, so I miss talking to you guys. Figure I'll just make this a quick one. Tyson will be back on tomorrow night. Him and Gunny are doing a live stream together, so you can check that out tomorrow. And also check out the fundraiser that he's doing. He's going to be running like 60 miles in 3 weeks to raise money and awareness for veterans that are struggling with PTSD. So definitely check that out. All the information is posted on his Twitter. Javid, glad you're doing well. Are the Jets screwed even with Rodgers? It kind of feels like it. I hate to say it because I'm trying to think positive, like for this offseason and get those good vibes back that we had last summer. It just feels like the Jets' issues are so deeply rooted with culture, with process, with just the shit that they worry about. It's all the wrong stuff. Their focus is always in the wrong areas. And when that starts with the owner and trickles down, it's like, how do you correct that? I think Rodgers can mask a lot of it, but some of these issues are just so deeply rooted. I don't know if he's going to be enough. Unless he's playing at an MVP level, I'm not sure. One more from Dante here. Appreciate you. Is the offense so hard to figure out? How is the O-line not figured out yet? How did we not get a backup quarterback? These things are important. Figure that out. Amen, Dante. The backup quarterback shit, like from last year, just drives me nuts still. The fact that we threw away a full season, and this is one of the few passes I'd give for solid, because I mentioned LaFleur, but also the quarterback position, where he was forced to play Zach Wilson for 2 years, the worst quarterback in football. His defense ultimately did the job, but he had a coordinator he probably didn't want and a quarterback that he probably didn't want. The fact that just went, they just brushed it under the rug. We don't need a backup quarterback. We'll run this backwards. The incompetence sometimes just drives me nuts. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. No, just Huff. What does that mean? Do more mental health videos. I myself struggle with mental health. It's good hearing that I'm not the only one. Yeah, I mean, listen, that's definitely part of why I haven't been doing as many videos as well. It's been a rough couple months. The 1 year anniversary of my sister passing away was not easy. My mom's birthday was a couple weeks ago. Biggest thing is to just try to live in the moment. You know, a lot of conversations I have with a lot of people that have been trying to uplift me and people that are also struggling. And I tell them the same thing. You know, you got to live day by day. Try to live in the moment. Do little things each day to, you know, try to make yourself feel good, make yourself positive, help others. You know, usually I feel better when I'm putting myself out there and I'm doing things for other people. So hope you're doing well. All right, let's see if we can get David back on here, see if his mic is working. Caller of the week. Let's see. Now we're blacked out and we have no audio. So no video and no audio now.
Yo.
We're back. What's up?
Dude, this guy calls me right when you put me on. I got my thing on Do Not Disturb, okay? And somehow it comes through. And the second time he just did it, he called back right when you put me back on the second time as well.
Unbelievable.
We haven't heard I'm doing good. I'm you know, over the disdain of the season we have, and I'm more optimistic. I'm a little surprised with myself that we we had the season, and being a Jets fan, obviously, you know, I'm every year expecting a clown show, for lack of a better word, and I'm actually feeling better about moving on from last season, and I'm optimistic, and I feel like we're going to do what we need to do with the O-line and get another receiver to I don't know if Justin Jefferson, or I don't think Devontae can happen, but if we can get one of these, like, you know, AAA guys, would be amazing.
Who would be your priority in free agency to target?
For wide receiver?
Wide receiver, O-line, just in general.
I would say go with the O-line. I would say go with the O-line. One of the top guys. Because you know, obviously that's our main struggle. It's our main problem. So what I'm kind of afraid of is, and you mentioned it, is the culture and what's you know, going on deep inside the roots. And, you know, and I've seen businesses, sports teams, you know, households, you know, whoever controls whoever has the most influence is usually the one that sets the tone of these groupings, and I think that you know it did feel like the Woody is doing last year. He was pressing, he was doing things more unprecedented, and I think that despite what happened this year with all the mistakes, I'm optimistic that obviously we all want him to sell, and it's been for years, but I feel like something could be different this year where he's seeing that this culture and everything needs to change. And I don't know. I want to try and be optimistic. And I think with Rodgers there, it could really repair some of these deep rooted issues that we have. And I personally, my kind of more concern is how long are we going to have Rodgers? Because I think we're going to do the right moves to fix the problems that we have. I think the offense will be better considering, obviously we won't have Hackett as powerful in the play calling and all that. And with Rodgers there, so
but Salah having a larger role, that might not be so great either. He's going to be more involved with the offense, because we've been down that path with Rex Ryan before, when he started to get more involved with the offense and didn't go very well.
I'm not a big fan of Salah. I was, and when he first came on, but I feel like he got exposed with the all gas no break and the mathematicians and all those kind of, you can see, and I watch I listen to a lot of the New York sports talk radio, and I'm here on the West Coast, that, but
Yeah.
I like to listen to like W Fan and some of those like New York radio. Like I go back and watch their YouTubes, and some of the guys that I listen to a lot there, they just absolutely have zero faith in Salah, and I feel like
it's a culture of complacency. I don't know if you heard the interview that he did with Eric Allen right after the season on the Jets YouTube page. They must have brought up the 13 offensive linemen, the 4 different quarterbacks. Oh, we ended the streak against the Patriots. We beat the Eagles for the first time. Like all these little victories that he's so proud of, all these injuries, we still managed to get to 7 wins. That was an accomplishment. Like all these little things that he's so proud of. Other organizations don't give a shit about winning 7 games. Like the standard here is so fucking low.
They set the bar They set the bar so low that it's like, oh, okay, we beat the Eagles, and then he jumps into Joe Douglas's arms, and that was a great day. But just like the first day, that magical first game, the walk-off, I went all the way across the country, met you, went to the game. It was a magical day. That eerie, you know what I'm talking about? That when I was walking out the stadium, I remember I took a video, and I was like full of joy and dopamine and all that. And I had this thing in the back of me, and right away it hit me. And then you put the video and everything. I got back to my hotel room. I was like, oh no, he's right, dude. And then
I was heartbroken driving home, because we knew it was going to happen. However much we tried to deny it or hope last year was going to be different, we saw it play out the year prior with Zach. And we knew that there was no intention of going in another direction.
And this similar thing on the Eagles game, it was just like pure euphoria with a pick. And, I have a video. I think I sent you that video of me screaming at the top of my lungs when but and then he jumps in his arms, and it's a fairy tale, but you just know, like it feels like these like fluke wins, like, okay, hey, they're still an NFL team. They're supposed to get 5 to 7 wins a season. So it's like, okay, you beat the Bills, and it's like, it's so these deep rooted issue. I really, my hope is that Rodgers can go in there, okay, because everything's going to run through Rodgers. Okay, so now you said it before. We have no choice but to fully be all in. And I am. I wasn't some big Aaron Rodgers fan before he came here. I respected him for his accomplishments and how good he was, but I was kind of like, I wasn't the biggest fan. I thought he was cocky, this, that. Now that I've learned more about him and who he is, and like what he did with the kid in the Hard Knocks, when he, all that stuff, he's a great dude. And I listened to him, like, Joe Rogan, this, that, and I bought into him, and now I'm a believer, right? And so everything's going to run through Roger. Go ahead.
We could, not to cut you off, like we could be all in as fans. I wonder if Joe Douglas, which you would think he knows he's on the hot seat, if this year doesn't go well, he's fired. I wonder if he's finally willing to change his offseason approach and deal from future assets and literally go all in on this year. Like he's always operating from that second tier of free agency.
Right.
I know they're somewhat limited with cap space, but he shouldn't give a shit about the future cap.
We need to go all in right now.
You got money. We already have dead money. Like you want to add on to it, go for it. Like,
you got Rodgers.
Rodgers.
You got Rodgers. You got a couple of, some not more than a couple, but some key couple of pieces to fix. And I think we can make a run for it. And I'm not gonna, psych myself up all crazy, but I do feel like something's got to change. And I feel like, and I said this last season, but I feel like it's our time. I'm not gonna put the mats and do the chant and all that. I'm not. It's not close enough yet, but I do feel like it's just okay. Everything's going to run through Rodgers. Let him reset the if he's not going to sell, let him reset the culture. Let him implement, and have a lasting effect, and leave something. So to leave legacy behind it, that even years down the road, you say, oh, that team used to be trash for 60 years, but Aaron Rodgers came and he turned it around, and we can have this everlasting culture change. And I hope that he can stay healthy. And I think that he wants to play as long as he can. I don't think he's like thinking 1, 2 years. I think we might get him for more than 2 years. If he can stay healthy, God willing, he could stay healthy. Okay. This guy wants to play, and this guy's like healthy. He's like one of those Brady, like, super health guys. And I think, the guy doesn't want to retire soon. I think he wants to play. God willing, he has more than 2 years, 3, 4, I don't know. But let's go all in his next couple of years. Let's reset the culture, let's fix the pieces that we need. I'm going to try to be positive. Take a tool from Tyson's book, a page, a tool, I said, a page from Tyson's book, because he's, I remember I was so negative one time. I think I was driving to USC and I was all, and he was telling me, dude,
I was the asshole that was negative after the Eagles win.
No, I you know what I forgot to say, dude. Yeah, you were getting hounded, by a lot of people, and you were right, dude. Like I think we got caught up in the joy of beating a team we never beat, and also like it was a huge win, but it was always those games like the Kansas City, the almost. On WFAN, the guy's like, that's the problem. Zach Wilson had one drive, like a jet, one drive Jets. Like the guy had one good drive, and so it would always make us think, okay, well maybe he can, and we just went down, spent too many chances we gave the guy and all that, but like you got
one from I'm just gonna read this one real
quick.
Yeah,
go for it.
Here. Do we owe LaFleur an apology? His offense worked with White and Johnson and even Flacco a little bit, but couldn't with Wilson. Looks like it was a Wilson problem. Keep up the good work. Kevin Tyrone, my favorite New York Jets YouTubers. Dante, appreciate you again. I absolutely think we owe LaFleur somewhat of an apology, right? I mean, we saw the offense operate somewhat well with 3 different quarterbacks. Johnson had a 300-yard game. Mike White had the 400-yard game. Flacco looked okay at times. I think it was clearly a Zach Wilson problem. And LaFleur ended up taking the fall for it.
I mean, the precedent of last year, the previous years, the year with LaFleur, we weren't, so heavy on this offense being so bad. Like it was a problem, but it wasn't like it turned out to be this year, I think we owe him an apology. I do. I think, but the thing is, we got to see, if Rodgers, if this is going to be corrected, because God forbid this guy comes out and it's like the whole nother, a disaster, that's another thing that's like, we just don't know yet. We got to see him out on the field. And like I said, I think with him, as long as he's in the building, we need Rodgers in the building, as long as he's in the building, I think that we'll definitely be better and have the best possible chance. Now, the question I want to ask you is, what are we doing about the future after Rodgers, right? Like
That's not even something we can think about right now because we don't even know. I mean, if this year doesn't go well, Douglas is gone, Salah's gone. Like, how can you look at the future when you don't even know who's going to
if
be
Douglas
making
and
decisions?
Salah are gone, you think Rodgers will ride out another year after that?
Probably not.
Well, like I
Unless
said,
he has a great year and like somehow this season goes off the rails, like because of the defense or like whatever other issues you can imagine. Like he's still playing well, he still feels good. He played 17 games, but like there were just so many other issues where the Jets only won 7-8 games. Then maybe, but I don't know if it would be for the Jets. I don't know
yeah,
if he would embrace another head coach and them starting over. If he only has
right.
1 or 2 years left, he might say no, trade me to a contender.
Well, I'm gonna take a page out of Tyson's book. I'm gonna try to be positive, you know. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I think we'll just do the relax and everything will be cool, And I think we have some good times ahead of us. I'm tired of being negative. I'm tired of, I love the team no matter what, we've been loyal all these years, and it's just at some point. Please turn things around for us and give us something to be happy about. And it's really good seeing you. And we haven't heard these following words in a long time, so I'm gonna go ahead and say them. Mr. Primetime.
It's been a minute, I know. I had to give myself a toast tonight.
Yeah. Toast to you, man. Good to see you, brother.
Great catching up.
I'll let you take some other calls, man. God bless you, bro. And here, I'll show you real quick. Look at how my dog is laying down right here.
Oh, wow.
My dog sleeps
armed up.
He's like all like.
Is he breathing? Sure, he's all right?
Yeah, he no. He sleeps like. Look, I'll show him to you right here. Look,
it's like a long day,
buddy.
Oh,
buddy.
there you go.
No, yeah, he just sleeps weird,
Gotcha.
Hey, man, good seeing you, man. God bless you, and you take care. I'll see you again, brother.
You too, man. Be good.
Later, bro.
Later. All right, so we got one call in at least. If anybody else wants to hop on, feel free to do so. If you have any more questions, get them in now as we start to wrap up, unless we have somebody else that wants to hop on. I would not give up a future first for Higgins. To me, there's just with a draft class that's loaded, plus other free agents that you could still sign, maybe not as good as Higgins, but he's going to get probably $100 million over like 5 or 6 years. So especially after that contract that Mike Evans signed today, the cap going up, he's going to get paid like crazy to give him that kind of contract and a first-round pick. I don't know. And he's never even been the guy either. Not that he would have to be with the Jets. He would still have Garrett, just like, he's got Jamar Chase and Cincy, but that's a lot of money to pay for what would essentially be your number 2. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, I think we definitely owe LaFleur a pretty sizable apology. Yes, David was the clown guy. Good to see him back in positive spirits. That's right. We also had the game we almost lost to the Giants. Team easily could have been a 4-win team last year. So, yeah, most teams are ashamed by 7 wins. This team absolutely celebrated it. Like they flaunted it. Like, look at us. We won 7 games in spite of all those injuries, in spite of 13 offensive linemen. Every other team was dealing with injuries. Every other team was on their backup quarterback. They found a way to get it done. We're happy with 7 wins. Ugh. Got to go to bed. Got work at 5 a.m. Good to see you, man. Have a good night. Javed says we don't owe Mike LaFleur an apology. He was supposed to nurture and teach Zach. He was the OC who drafted him. He failed at his job. His offenses were predictable at times, and he made bad situational play calls. Okay, so yes, it was his job to nurture and teach Zach. But if he's doing his job and Zach's just not applying what's being taught, when clearly those things could work with other quarterbacks, is that not a Zach problem? And also, the fact that he clearly wasn't ready day one. We could say whatever we want about his talent, his skill set. He was not ready to be an NFL quarterback on day one. Even in year 2, he was not ready to be a quarterback. So you can blame Joe Douglas on that. You can blame Saleh on that. LaFleur has no choice but to coach him. That's his quarterback. He doesn't make that decision. So I still think we owe LaFleur at least a little bit of an apology, especially as we started to see other quarterbacks perform within the offense. And the fact that the Rams had a pretty solid season. You have somebody like Sean McVay that's willing to take him, who knows offense. I think that kind of speaks volumes, no? The Jets have to be aggressive this offseason. Honestly, they should sign like 2 to 3 players next Monday, but it doesn't seem like they're going to do that. I don't see why they would just kind of sit back. Like, again, I know that's been Joe Douglas's thing to just kind of attack that secondary market. But I go back to like 3-4 years ago, that offseason where I think it was Trent Williams was available, and then Joe Tooney and Conklin. Like within a 2-year period, there were just offensive linemen, like plenty of offensive linemen available. And we didn't sign any of the prominent guys. Like we went for the second tier, the George Fants and guys like that we end up signing. The Morgan Moseses, the Corey Davises, the Carl Lawsons, I would love to see us grab Ayuk from the 49ers, Eckler from the Chargers, and a decent backup quarterback to Rodgers. It's not like we haven't got the salary cap to pull it off. Yeah, I mean, listen, right now they're only at like $20 million. They're going to release Uzama. They'll definitely clear a lot more space. But if you look at the way that Joe Douglas structures a lot of his contracts, he always, I want to say like 80% of his contracts have like 2 or 3 void years and all this dead money that's attached at the end of it once the guys leave. So you can make almost any contract work. It's just a matter of who wants to come to the Jets and who are you willing to do that with. Ayuk would be good, especially considering how great of a blocker he is, in addition to being a good receiver. Yeah, that's what I love about Tyler Boyd also. He's a big physical guy that you plug in the slot, reliable hands. I think he'd be perfect. Prepare for MVS to be a Jet. Valdez Scantling. Yep, might as well bring him back. Bakhtiari, just bring in some more Packers. That's the answer, right? Although I do think Bakhtiari is going to happen. I don't think he's going to be plugged in as your day one left tackle, but I think he's going to sign one of those like 1 year, $4 million contracts with like an extra $7 million in playing time and incentives. But we'll see what happens. We don't know he's doing his job and teaching him. Those other guys had been in and around the NFL for years. I don't think he's blameless in that the offense was handed to him. You can blame some things, I guess, on LaFleur, but to me, like just the simple fact that when you had a veteran running the offense, it looked completely different. And he only had a handful of games with that veteran, and he was forced to play Zach. So, like you said, I mean, we don't know what he was teaching, what he wasn't, but it seemed like the offense was capable of working when you had a veteran quarterback in there. Take your Jets fandom out. If JD hasn't signed one legit offensive lineman or offensive free agent in 5 years, why would he do it now with his job on the line and possibly more reckless? Well, you just said it, though. His job is on the line now. I think he knows for a fact that there's no way he will be back if the Jets don't make the playoffs this year. So you're kind of limited with cap space. So you almost have no choice but to still go all in, defer some of this money into future years, deal from future assets, trade back into the second round if you can. Like you have to do whatever is possible to add as much talent now on the offensive side of the ball as possible. Your defense has been a top 10 unit the last 2 years. You're getting your quarterback back. You need to make sure he's upright, and you need to make sure he has targets to throw the football to. Those are your 2 priorities. So, but you're right, though. If he hasn't done it in 5 years, why will he do it now? But he has to. That's why. He has to. He has no choice. It's his job on the line. So, what happened to Becton? He's going to be a free agent. See what kind of contract he gets offered on the open market, who's willing to pay him. I don't think you're going to see any teams that are willing to give him anything more than probably a 2-year contract, which is part of why I think he might end up back with the Jets with some combination, again, of him, Bakhtiari, Donovan Smith. I could absolutely see that being the plan at left tackle. Just let 2 or 3 guys battle it out and know that, if one of them gets hurt, hopefully you'll have somebody behind them that can still play. I also think they're kind of high on Carter Warren as well. Max Mitchell, he's got some experience as well. So I think they're going to have 5 or 6 tackles on the roster this year, to be honest. What has this front office ownership shown in the last 3 years that would give fans any hope that they figure it out this year? I mean, if we're being honest, not really much other than the 2022 draft class. Yeah, they have the 2022 draft class with Sauce, Garrett, Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall, and even that free agent class, I think, produced DJ Reed, Conklin, Jordan Whitehead. But other than that, you take that away, and you have what? Michael Carter, who else? Michael Carter. And who else is there, really? AVT, but he's been hurt the last 2 years. Quincy Williams was a good signing. JFM, guys like that under the radar. Huff was a great move, but now you're going to lose him. There's not many building blocks on this roster. If you go to 2026, right now, the only player on the Jets roster is Quinnen Williams, other than last year's draft class. And they could still, you still have the first round option with Garrett, with Sauce and Jermaine Johnson. But Quinnen Williams is the only player that's signed for 2026, which is two seasons away. He's the only player that's signed under contract right now. And there's also a lot of dead money in that year too, which is why I keep saying, like, if this year goes south, Jets are going to be in trouble. This job is not going to be attractive. You're not going to find a GM that's going to want to take this on. And so I genuinely think Douglas might change his philosophy a little bit, knowing that his job is on the line. He's got to add talent now, and he's going to deal from future assets. Like, he's going to be willing, I hope, to trade future draft picks to get help now for Aaron Rodgers. He has to. As long as Woody meddles, nothing is going to go well. Kind of tend to think that also, but I'm trying to ignore that and hope Aaron Rodgers can just be our savior. If we get a second-round pick from the McCole Hardman tampering incident, we should take Bo Nix. I'm all about getting a second-round pick from tampering, but I do not think I would go quarterback. I mean, there's too many good receivers. If you're getting back into the second round, I'm assuming you're not taking a receiver at 10. I don't think Neighbors or Dunze is going to fall there. I just think there's too many offensive tackles that are going to be available, plus Bowers. But if you could get a receiver in round 2, whether it's from the McCole Hardman shit or just trading back in, I'm all about that. Devontae Walker would look amazing in a Jet uniform. We're getting the guy from Oregon State. That's Fuaga. Seems like all the reports have the Jets going with him right now, which is probably why that's not going to happen. Usually that's the way it is. What do we got here from David? I have cautious faith in Rodgers, the player. I have no faith in the majority of the talent and coaching around him. I kind of feel exactly the same way. I love Rodgers, the player, and even Rodgers, the person that we got to see. Like, you kind of have like a narrative in your head from most of what you hear from the media, but then when he's actually in your locker room and you listen to him talk every day, you realize that, like, he's an intelligent dude. He loves football. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He was a great leader the entire offseason. Like, I love Rodgers, the player and the person, now that I've got to, watch him for a full year. But you're right, though. The majority of the team around him, talent, front office, coaching staff, appears to be a mess from all indications. Like, all these articles that keep coming out, the Athletic article, the Tony Pauline article, players that are just shitting on us left and right, Deion Dawkins, McCole Hardman. And I don't put too much faith in the Dawkins interview. Like, who is he to talk about social media clout when you're doing a shirtless interview looking like a clown? But I do think that Michael Clemens' act has gotten a little bit old, telling everybody to F you. And he tries to be like a scary guy, but I'd rather him just play smarter and not take stupid penalties, get sacks. But that's just me. The draft selections of Zach Wilson and Becton tanked this rebuild. You know what? You're kind of right, because if you take that Becton pick and let's just say you turn that pick into Wirfs, and now you have Wirfs, AVT, and Tippmann, 3/5 of your offensive line, pretty solid. You take the Zach Wilson pick, you trade with the Niners instead of taking Zach. Now you have 2 extra first-round picks. Like, your team looks completely different. That pick of Zach Wilson set this franchise, and I'm trying not to go back into this conversation, but you guys all saw how pissed off I was in the months leading up to Zach, because I think it was clear, however talented you want to say Zach is, I think he's got plenty of physical ability, but the organization was not in a position to take a quarterback, in my opinion. It wasn't. The supporting cast was not there. You had a first-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator. Like, it made too much sense to trade that pick, build your talent, build your offensive line, get your weapons, and then in a year or two, like they ultimately did with Aaron Rodgers, you could go all in, make a trade, do whatever you got to do, go get your quarterback. But you need the foundation first. You can't throw a rookie quarterback like we've done with how many quarterbacks? With Zach, with Darnold, with Geno, with Sanchez. And Sanchez actually had a nice supporting cast. That's why he was successful his first 2 years. But you can't keep throwing these rookie quarterbacks into a shitty situation and hope that they're going to be your savior. It's not going to work. And Zach clearly wasn't ready. So what do I think about Rempe? Kid's a beast, man. I mean, he can't be fighting every night. I just saw the final score. Rangers lost tonight. That sucks. But yeah, I mean, kid's been a beast. You can't fight every night. At some point you're gonna take too many blows. But it's important that the Rangers have an enforcer, though. You got a lot of talent, a lot of young talent. Lafreniere starting to play really well. So you want to make sure those guys are protected, especially when you get to the playoffs and things get a little more physical. This year, wide receiver draft is stacked. Absolutely, completely agree with you. End of the first round to like the early third round, so much talent there. Really hope that Douglas finds a way to get an extra pick or two. All right, a few more as we start to wrap up. Remember how we wanted to keep Sam Darnold. Who's we? Because all I remember was getting all the hate messages when I brought up that possibility. And I still say it was not about keeping Sam Darnold. It was not about Sam Darnold. It was about not going through the same cycle again, forcing another quarterback who's not ready to try to be your savior. A quarterback, by the way, who in a COVID year shot up draft boards from like 5th round to all of a sudden he's a top 2 pick. Justin Fields was the guy all year, and then suddenly Zach Wilson, because he makes some nice throws in shorts. Completely ridiculous. Whatever went on in that scouting process, that's probably why Rex Hogan left. I'm sure he was a big part of that. Ugh. I remember Primetime wanted to keep Sammy Dimes. Yes, I did. But again, it wasn't about Sam. It was about not drafting another quarterback, especially when you could have gotten an extra 2 first-round picks for that pick. You'd be in a completely different situation right now. That's right. You were on that train with me, David. I forgot that. All right, so we're going to start to wrap it up. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'll start doing some more of these now that I'm kind of back in the swing of things. We got the deadline tomorrow, I believe, for Bryce Huff. I'm sure nothing's going to happen there. But free agency starting soon, I believe next week. So talk to you guys later. Have a good night. Appreciate everybody that tuned in. One last question for Trevor. Do you think we see more of Bernard Converse this year? I hope so. I was pretty high on him last year. Versatile cornerback, DB, safety. So got to stay healthy, though. And one last one from Dante. Fields should have been our pick. The level of competition he faced was way better than Wilson. And you could also argue that just with his skill set as a mobile quarterback, like your offense would have been completely different. So I don't know if that would have been better or worse, but you almost feel like he would have been able to make some plays in some of these low-scoring games where the offense couldn't figure things out, or maybe you do steal an extra win or two. But what could have been, what should have been, is not. So O-line, good show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you again. Have a good night.